Okay, my friends, here are three big stories for today, and it's very hard to be judicious and whittle it down to just three big stories, but I think these are the appropriate stories that are going to have the most effect on Ukraine going forward. Okay, so yesterday, you know that the uh, Prime Minister Fico was meeting with the Ukrainian Prime Minister, and they were trying to hash out some agreement. He had previously said that there's no possibility that Ukraine's going to join NATO. He would block it, and that's because he wanted to kind of strong arm Ukraine to get that transit for the gas to come through Ukraine from Russia into Slovakia. It didn't work. Okay, so Ukraine will not extend the transit agreement for that natural gas from Russia after its expiration, said the Ukrainian prime minister. So that's what was going on there. That's part one. But they also got some things done. Now, this is instructive because even if you disagree with someone, there are things that you agree with them about. And if your disposition is to think through, okay, we agree more than we disagree, what can we find some operating agreements on that can be mutually beneficial? This is one of those places. Slovakia pledges emergency power to Ukraine in case of blackouts due to Russian attacks on energy infrastructure. So you could have just said, well, you're not getting what you want, I'm not getting what I want, so we're just going to walk away. No, they found something where they could mutually benefit. And then they had a host of other little things as well. The governments established a joint declaration outlining key areas of cooperation, enhancing political dialogue, building good neighborly relations. Remember that they're right on the border with each other. Slovakia and Ukraine share a common border. And supporting Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Even if his leaning is more toward Russia, far better to try to find something that could actually be useful. The document also confirms progress in reconstruction on the interconnector between the countries, direct railway connections, and the modernization of border infrastructure. Remember, that they share that border. They're not going away. It's not like Slovakia can pick up and move somewhere or Ukraine can do that. So you might as well figure out how you can work together. And that's generally the best path forward. Okay. In other news, Ukraine received 122 tons of ammunition for which Slovaks raised more than 4 million euros. Now, these are Slovak people raising this money, not like the Slovakian government. So thank you to the people of Slovakia. That's awesome. More than 70,000 Slovaks donated to buy ammunition for Ukrainian military. It took about 4 to 5 months from the start of the fundraising to the delivery of shells in Ukraine. The remaining 500,000 euros raised to help Ukraine will be used to purchase grenade launcher rounds. They're to be delivered by the end of the year. So, okay, look to see where you can find unity rather than where you're at odds with people. Second big story. Russia, Iran, and proxies like the Houthis expand their war on the world order to global shipping. Now, they are Russia, Iran, China to a lesser degree, North Korea, Syria. They're working together to upend the way the system works right now. This order is what makes the US and Europe so secure and prosperous. And they're allowing this axis of autocracy to destroy it. Now, if you look at, for example, the attacks of the Houthis in the Red Sea, what's going on here? This is terribly disruptive to shipping and international trade. And I know that you don't necessarily think about it like this, but what's the purpose of the United States Navy? Okay, to fight on the sea, we get that, but it's also to free up international trade. Because if you see all these red dots, these are American naval bases. If you took those away, I bet you in a vacuum, in a hurry, international trade in some parts of the world would seize up. And she say, oh, well, let's get these American bases out of here. Instead of that, you should be saying, thank you, because we're riding on, we have the freedom of navigation in the seas that petty dictators aren't taking over, and we're getting stuff cheaper as a consequence because of that, because there is that freedom of the sea. that the U.S. is enforcing. Now, it's not just the U.S., and there are some partners as well, but the U.S. is bearing the brunt of that burden, and that's just an undeniable reality. So if you want to take this away, what will happen? Well, China's already working on trying to establish their own bases, and if you remove the U.S. from the picture and just had, say, China, maybe Russia as the who is going to be out there, it's not going to be as free, I would imagine. So that free trade is what's going on here. And if you allow the axis of autocracy to operate as they would, it would be a very different picture. Okay, turning our attention a little bit, but still with the same kind of focus, Israeli Defense Forces said that airstrike in Beirut killed Suhail Husseini, who was in charge of Hezbollah's arms shipments from Iran. Husseini oversaw the transport and distribution of these weapons of Lebanese radical group Hezbollah. And again, Hezbollah is getting things from Iran. Iran and Russia are working hand in hand. Iran and Syria are working Iran and Syria and Russia and Syria, and then it's all funneling to Lebanon. And like these guys are all connected. Okay, nearly 450 members of the radical group Hezbollah, including the leader Hassan Nasrallah, and 30 commanders at various levels, have been killed since the start of Israel's ground operation in Lebanon. And while we're at it, yesterday was the anniversary of that vicious attack by Hamas on Israel. Hezbollah fired 100 rockets toward Israel's Haifa and the surrounding area. And when we're thinking about that, like I'm telling you, these guys are all connected. Like there's this axis and then there's the other side. And even if you have sympathy for Gaza, certainly you wouldn't be saying that October 7th, this is a great time to celebrate. I mean, unless you're just really off in that camp. Even if you have sympathy for Gaza, what happened last year on October 7th was a shameful, horrible attack that should never have happened and not happened to anyone. And I was driving to work yesterday and I saw folks with a like little protest or celebration with Palestinian flags, waving these Palestinian. I live in such a conservative area of the country. I've seen one Harris sign, one. I driving around my neighborhood for however many months now, I've seen one. That's how conservative my area is. And to see that was just like horrifying. And they're doing this on the day that's the anniversary of that slaughter. It's absolutely terrible. Okay, never again is only a slogan without the power and courage to make it real. The free world has the power, but not the courage. They don't have the will to do this, to defend itself. The forces of evil are relatively weak for now, but operate openly and have infiltrated democracies that should be eradicating them. This shouldn't be. Okay. Big story number 3. Part of that alliance is North Korea. Now, North Korea is interesting in what they're doing and how they're shifting some. And I'll explain what I mean in just a moment here. North Korea likely to deploy troops to Ukraine in support of Russia. Now, I talked about this the other day in a video about like what's news, what's commentary, and what is a projection of some sort. What is, here's what might happen, and be careful with the what might happen. But they're saying this might happen. I think it's possible. Now, a number of North Korean officers were killed the other day, and we're talking about larger groupings of North Koreans potentially being sent from North Korea to Ukraine. Is it possible? I think so. South Korean defense minister says this comes after Russian President Putin and North Korean Kim signed a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement in June 2024, which reportedly includes provisions for mutual assistance in case of aggression against either country. On October 3, Ukrainian intelligence sources revealed that Ukrainian missile strike killed 6 North Korean officers. But there's more to it than just the agreement that they had. Listen to this, and then I'll explain my case. North Korea has not even thought of attacking South Korea, says Kim Jong-un. Like, they're not worried about South Korea anymore. Listen, North Korea had nothing going on except saber-rattling, trying to get a deal for saber-rattling and, threatening South Korea and saying they're going to blow up the world, right? They had no business model, but now they do. According to him, Pyongyang does not consider the option of forceful unification of the peninsula and has announced a course that involves de facto recognition of the existence of the two states. That's remarkable. We do not even have the thought of attacking the Republic of Korea. The mere thought gives me goosebumps. I don't even want to stand face to face with these people. Before that, we talked a lot about some kind of liberation of the South, even talked about forceful unification. Now there is absolutely no interest in that at all. Why? Because he's got a business model for the first time that's not just selling nuclear rocket technology to Iran or dollar heroes. You know what dollar heroes are? You got to look this up if you haven't seen this documentary, North Korea's Secret Slaves, dollar heroes. They basically rent out North Koreans at slave wages to other countries. So would he be likely to go back to that fully back to that question, to send his own North Korean troops to go fight in Russia? Yeah. If he can make money, this is the first time that he's had a successful money-making operation, because he doesn't have, in an authoritarian system where he just controls everything and people aren't really pursuing their own interest and generating value. He's throttled the system, but now he sees a way potentially where he can, like, selling the ammunition to Russia, ammunition factories to sell more ammunition to Russia, sending North Korean soldiers to Russia. That's a way that he can make some money, and I think that is very, very likely for that reason. It's a prediction, and so it's not necessarily 100%, but we're going to keep our eyes on that and see what happens. Meanwhile, African mercenaries in the rank of the Russian armed forces as well. That's what Putin's going to get. He's going to be paying a premium to get mercenaries from wherever he can get them. Okay, last little bit. Gary Kasparov said somebody said, Gary Kasparov, you were smart at some point. What happened? He's still smart. He said, he replied, you allowed ideology and partisanship to alter your definition of smart. Even if you disagree with Kasparov, he's smart. Now, I say that to say this. I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know that I have a different opinion than many of you. Many of you that listen to me, and I give you a great deal of credit for this, are on the political left, and you listen to me even though you know that I'm on the political right, but you hear what I have to say, and that is credit worthy. You deserve the praise for that. You don't have to agree with me on everything. Take what you can from what is useful analysis and work that into your mental framework. And thank you for being willing to do that. I do appreciate that. Last little bit here. This happened 2 years ago today. It's going to happen again in the future. Don't know when, but it's going to happen again. I can pretty safely predict if this war goes on. All right. Thank you for your time, my friends. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.